Alex here in the TGC editing room. I have to tell you, we have been trying to make our podcast so much better. Sometimes it's the mic, sometimes it's the place that we're doing it. When you hear this episode, our voices are going to change from one location to another as we experiment and try to really make sure we give you the best show we can give you. Thanks for your patience with that and enjoy our Mother's Day special.
Terri!
Hey, Alex.
Hey, guess what we're doing today?
Let me guess. Is it our Mother's Day special?
It is our Mother's Day special, and we're talking one of our favorite moms.
That's right. Who's our favorite Yia Yia?
That would be my mom, Marianne. She's a traveler with over 60 years of experience, and I can't wait to share some of her really great stories. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's cue the music. We are here on our very special Mother's Day episode with one of the best travelers we know, my mom, Marianne, also known as Babcia, Yia Yia, Grandma, world traveler of 60 years. Mom, you've had 3 incredible chapters in your travel experiences, from being a kid as a traveler to traveling with my stepdad, your husband, Tom, and then traveling as a solo traveler, kind of like on the girls' trips. Are you ready to talk all about travel?
Sounds good to me.
Yay, we're happy to have you here. So, as we said, you have about 60 years of travel experience. And tell us, what was your first travel memory?
The first thing that I recall was getting on an airplane in Newark, New Jersey, the old original Newark airport. And it was on a DC-3 going with my father to Washington, D.C. I was about 7 years old, and it was so exciting to do something like that. And we landed in Washington, and my father had business at some government agency. So he took me over to the Treasury Department and handed me over to a lady guide and said he was going across the street to whatever agency it was. And he was going to come back for me when he was finished. So I got to see all the money being made, all the stamping machines, and all. The only thing is they wouldn't let me bring samples home. So that was one of my very first memories of actual travel that wasn't just going to see Auntie somebody or Grandma somebody. This was a pretty special event for me as a youngster.
That is so cool. I think about the fact you were born in Bayonne, New Jersey. You come from an incredible Polish family with great roots that came over to this country for a better world. And your family definitely is the definition of how all of that worked. The American dream worked. And you did get to do a lot in our country, especially as a kid. You got to travel and see a lot of the states, especially before the idea of the Great American Road Trip became such a huge deal. So, what do you remember about all of those great road trips you took as a kid?
So many, many memories. What we used to do is we would drive during Easter week to Miami Beach from New Jersey. Now, back in those days, there was no Interstate 95, and we had to take Route 1, Route 301, and Route 17, and I have no idea where else we went, but we wound up in an unair-conditioned car with 3 children and my mother and father, and went to Miami Beach. And that was great fun. It was so exciting because my father would take us out of school. He would bribe the nuns and bring them home a case of orange blossom wine and from Florida and bring it over to the convent. And the nuns were good with it. They didn't care. So that was one of the things that we did. We would go to Easter Mass at a monastery in Miami Beach. I don't know where it is. I'm really going back a lot of years, and some of the memories are faded, but still pretty good.
Okay, time for my question. Since I'm a big traveler in the US, if I wanted to stay on, like if I had a short time, I want to stay on the East Coast. I don't want to go out west. Any place that you would tell me that I may not choose off, the top 10 most visited places? Is there something on the East Coast that I could visit?
If you wanted to see on the East Coast and go for a really neat trip, I would go to Newport, Rhode Island. It is the most glorious, beautiful city, town, so full of history, so full of the mega mansions of the barons from days gone by, and it really is a place to see.
Well, I'm going to put that on my list.
That should go on our list. I love that idea. Mom, as you got a little bit older, you actually became a Girl Scout leader and wound up doing a ton of camping. And this is when you were married to Dad also. And you guys would go on a lot of camping trips. What was that like? What was camping like in the mid-60s in the New England area? What was that like?
Hard, not easy, because we would canoe and we would have to portage everything. And that included all the beer that they wanted to drink and cases of food. And we would have to carry the canoes on our shoulders to go from lake to lake. So it was very interesting, though. We did a lot of stuff. In fact, we were on Racket Lake in upstate New York when they landed on the moon and the moonshot, and we were so excited, and we heard it on the radio. So that was a real memorable time for us.
Wow, very
Okay,
cool.
I have a Girl Scout question here. Do you have any Girl Scout cookies left? Obviously, they had beer instead of Girl Scout. Where are those Girl Scouts today? Where are they?
It's been a long time, and I haven't seen any Girl Scouts selling cookies. But
or beer.
those Girl Scouts are probably in a rest home somewhere because they are so old now, like me. So that's all I can say.
She put the Girl Scouts away. So I think, just to be clear, you were talking about some independent camping of the scouting world, but you were very involved in that, and that was the majority of your travel at that time.
I think this could be a new thing for the Girl Scouts.
Actually,
start selling beer. I think people would buy it.
I feel like maybe you're onto something big there, Mom.
the Girl Scouts actually came much later than those trips.
Oh.
When I was a Girl Scout leader and my girls were young, and the trips that we went on were actually through the Explorers, and I was a female explorer guide, and that was when the Explorers accepted girls into their system.
You're fancy, Mom. Look at you. You're even a fancy camper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you definitely did a ton in the United States, approximately, and I know you don't have a specific number. How many states do you feel like you've seen about?
I've probably seen...
There's 50.
Right. Well, I haven't been to Utah, and I haven't been to Wyoming, and I haven't been to Hawaii. But
what?
I think I have seen almost all the rest of them.
That's a pretty good record. That's a pretty good scorecard.
I'm impressed, but I do think we need to schedule, because Utah is beautiful. Wyoming is one of my favorites. And Hawaii is just Hawaii. I mean, we just need to go so we can say we went. We'll go to Kauai where Elvis filmed Blue Hawaii. There's if I recall, there's the sweetest little chapel there. Little white chapel. It's so beautiful. And can we eat pineapple? Yes.
Yes. We'll rent a convertible and we'll sing Rockahula.
Yes.
Okay, good. I feel like that's a good plan, girls. Okay.
And you know who I saw when I was in Hawaii? Don Ho.
Wow.
Tiny Bubbles.
Tiny Bubbles. Who can forget Tiny Bubbles?
I know.
Okay, Mom, last question about this early time of traveling as you were really getting your feet wet in this idea of becoming a lifelong gypsy, right? What was one of those magical moments that you had as a kid?
The one place that we went, I was probably about 8 years old at the time. The family took a camping trip to Ferrystone State Park in Virginia. And this magnificent little gem of a park has something very unique. And they are little crystals of pyrite that are in the shape of a cross or an X, and they're everywhere. And that's where the name came from. They were called fairy stones. And my brother and I collected buckets full of these things. And I wish I knew where they were to this day. It's so sad that they just disappeared from our lives. But it was just fun picking up all these little, finding them. It was like a hunt to find as many as you could.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
It was
so
really fun.
That is so great. If you're just joining us, this is the Babcia and Yia Travel the World podcast, and we are here with a very special guest for Mother's Day. It's my mom, Marianne, and she is probably the reason we are all great travelers. And she has taught us so much. So we thought we'd share some of her stories with you to inspire you to be ready for your next great adventure. So, Mom, years later, you met Tom, my stepfather, and everything changed in the travel world because you went from being kind of like a road tripper in the States to being somebody who traveled internationally. Tell us about your first international trip.
The first time I crossed the ocean on a plane was going to Greece on our honeymoon. And we flew into Athens. And by the way, my mother-in-law came on this trip with us. And yes, she sat in the center seat of the three across. Actually, the reason that she came is because we asked her, she wanted to see her daughter, my sister-in-law, Cleo, who lived in Greece. So we brought her along with us, and it was worth it because she was so happy. But we got into Athens. It was the old airport in almost downtown Athens. It was just so different. The smell of Greece is something else. It's beautiful, like a pine scent that you can smell from all the gardens that are in Athens. And the food and everything was different. It was a magical moment for me. We stayed at the Astir Palace Hotel, which at that time was the super duper deluxe place. And they waited on us like we were gods and goddesses. It was wonderful. And the only thing we didn't know is that you don't eat dinner in Greece at 7:00 at night. You wait until at least 10 to have your first cocktail, and then you eat. And then by 1:00 in the morning, you're finished and you go to bed. So we were alone in the dining room the first couple of nights because we were there at 6:30, 7:00, like we would do at home. It was really, really bad. So anyway, we learned. And that was my first experience going overseas.
So, Mom, you were in Athens for your honeymoon, and you did leave Athens and go to other places. What are some of the other places you went to, and what were they like?
Well, we stayed a few days in Athens, and then we flew to the island of Skiathos, which, by the way, the movie Mamma Mia was filmed. And we stayed in the Skiathos Palace Hotel. And at that time, all hotels had double beds, twin beds, one here and one there. And Tom said he was not happy with this situation. So he pushed the beds together and used his neckties to tie the beds together. So, and I said, Tom, you can't do that. What are the maids going to think? And he had a remark, and that was it. So the next day, we found a giant bouquet of flowers in our room and a big bowl of fruit, and the maids were happy.
I just have a question. Mom-in-law went on this trip, the honeymoon.
Mhm.
Did she stay with y'all?
She stayed with my sister-in-law, Cleo. That was
Okay.
that was the purpose of her coming with us, so that she could see her daughter,
Okay.
which she really, 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 really missed.
I just thought it would be very awkward.
I agree. Okay, so over time, you and Tom really went every year. You would leave every September and you would go to Europe for about 6 weeks, I would say. Yeah, every year. And you would enjoy time definitely in Greece. And for reference sake, Tom is from a Greek heritage, and there were a lot of family members there and a lot of people to see. And it was a time to go back and see family every year.
Right.
But you would also use that as a springboard to go and do other things.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it would be a car trip, sometimes it would be a cruise. It just kind of depended on what was available at that time, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. And so tell us one of your favorite European road trips.
Oh, out of so many that were really, really great. Probably the one that I remember the most that was very interesting was we drove from Brussels after visiting Tom's cousin, Petro, who lived in Brussels. We rented a car and we left Brussels and drove to Cologne. And from there, we set on the Romantikstrasse, which is the main road that runs along the Rhine River. And it runs the whole length of the Rhine. So the first night we stayed in a castle, one of the big castles on the Rhine, and it was really a treat. It was so beautiful up there on this giant hill. And it just was wonderful. I mean, we had to walk across the moat and, and everything else. But that was the beginning of our road trip. From there, we drove farther south, and I don't remember the names of the small towns that we stayed in, but we went to hotels that were run by the Romantic chain, and they were beautiful, small family-run little inns that just were breathtakingly lovely, with beautiful linens and down comforters and lovely everything about it. And each night they would make a phone call to another romantic hotel along the way that we were staying in, and we just had arrangements made like that from one hotel to the next, and it was just a great, great, great time.
That sounds like so much fun.
Okay, so hearing that, it really makes me think like times have changed. So, how do you think travel has changed over the years? I don't think that would be something common you would see today, but I'm sure, call ahead, but how has travel changed today from back then when you traveled?
Well, we didn't have any GPS, and the names of some of the towns in Germany were so long and so many letters that by the time I was able to read it from the map, we already passed it.
There was no Google Translate. There
was no way that you can, and we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have just so many things, it's hard to even say how it gets changed dramatically.
I think today, when you mention that, people rely so heavily on your GPS that they don't know how to read a road map, exactly. which is really sad because, that's the way we traveled.
Yeah. I was the navigator, and I had to read the road map and get us to different towns through Germany, through Austria, through Oh my goodness, going down through the Brenner Pass and into northern Italy and into Lake Como and Lake Garda and um, that whole time, and all different maps. And I had them laid out in front of me in the car. And there was a little bit of consternation here and there, but we managed, and we, in the end, have a memorable trip in our back pocket.
And I have to say, Mom, I don't know of a better navigator than you. No one has a sense of direction like you do. And you could have been in a city once, and I believe we were in Rome. And you had been to Rome years before with Tom. You had stayed in an incredible hotel at some point in time, either with Tom or maybe my sister Cindy. And we were staying at a hotel we weren't necessarily happy with. And you said, no, we'll go and we'll find that hotel. It's on one of these back streets here. And you walked and you were like, yes, this pharmacy, that cafe, there it is. And we found that hotel on those back streets based on solely on you having that geographic memory like that. It amazes me every time. It's one of our magic powers when we travel is we've got grandma to help us make sure we don't get lost.
You got Mom's GPS.
Man, it's important. So Mom, you did get to do a lot of those kind of road trips. And I know you've been through the Alps and you've been through Italy and you did a ton in France and those kind of things. But you also cruised a tremendous amount. So what stands out to you as the benefits of cruising, especially because you were cruising as a couple? You know, there were no kids. It was just the two of you. What made that such a great attraction for you as a traveler?
Well, cruising opens up a whole world that is very unique. One of the many things I like about cruising is that you unpack once and you just put your things away. You put your suitcases under the bed and you are there. Another thing I like about it is that you can dress up for dinner or not. It depends on what you want. If you want to stay in your room and eat, you're happy to do that. If you want to join another couple, the maitre d' will seat you with another couple or with the whole table. You have cocktails before dinner, and it's just an easy way to travel. The first cruise that Tom and I took was after he became ill and he had this major lung surgery. I got a brochure and it was on the coffee table at our house. And Tom came home from the hospital and we looked at it and I said, Tom, what do you think of this? And he said, well, find out where it ends. So lo and behold, this cruise left Fort Lauderdale and ended up in Athens.
Oh,
and
perfection.
Tom said, this looks good. So he called the doctor, and the cruise was running a few months after Tom's recuperation. And Dr. Paul said, go for it, do it. And it was a whole ocean cruise all the way across the Azores and then into the Med and into Barcelona. And we didn't do much because Tom couldn't do too much, but we did enough. And the cruise was so restful because he could take a nap whenever he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And it was very relaxing. So that was the first major cruise that I'd been on.
And it's so great to hear you say that because I know you've done a lot of little things like maybe taking the overnight ferry from Greece to Italy or something like this. But this was a great way to kind of extend travel as your life was changing, because this really does bring us into the season of Tom not feeling as well as he had in the past, right, and cruising being kind of almost a solution and a balm of a sort to everything that was going on. Right. Now, you did go on a tremendous amount of them, and some of them with your doctor, as a matter of fact. Yes, he joined you on some. Yeah. And tell me, out of all the ships you have been on, because you have been on some pretty nice ships, I know you've done everything from Princess to Regent. What would you say is the most amazing ship you've been on?
Well, all of them were amazing. I guess I'm going to really reflect, and I'm going to say the Regent Voyager I think that was just the most wonderful and comforting ship. It really, really was lovely. And everything was included, which helps. They don't nickel and dime you to death. They don't, everything is done for you. And that's what we needed. So, and that's what I like.
And that is a beautiful ship. It is gorgeous. And it's not a young crowd on that ship, meaning no kids, which is very helpful. They're very specific about the itineraries that include kids and don't.
Exactly.
Yes.
What was the trip that made you feel most at home?
Probably flying home from wherever I was. Because I see on my Facebook memories some of the things, and I say, I love my bed. I love my bed. So, but again, there's so many countries and places and cities and things, and everything is unique unto itself. So it's really a hard question to answer, and I'll just say home.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Which I think, okay, so that's home. Where would you make home if you were to live overseas?
Wow. Well, one of two places. It would be either someplace in Greece or someplace in Italy. And I don't know which one I would do, but it would be one or the other.
Oh, Mom, I was going to put you on a cruise ship. Some people go and live in the Holiday Inn. I was just going to put you on a cruise ship instead of a rest home. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
That's,
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm home on a ship.
Good plan.
Yep.
Good plan. Okay. Okay. So you definitely had a lot of times with Tom. What would you say was the most ridiculous situation the two of you wound up in?
Well, we were in Santorini, and we were with Dr. Paul and his wife, Poonam. And we had to get back to the ship. And there's only two ways to get down. One is the funicular, and the other is the donkey steps. So Dr. Paul wanted to do the donkey steps, and Poonam went along with him. And I said, all right, I'll go with you. Tom took the funicular, in fact, waved to us as we were walking down the donkey steps, which, by the way, do not use open-toed sandals. It was absolutely the most grotesque way of getting down to that ship. I don't even know. I think I threw my sandals out after that because the donkeys left donkey gifts. And it was absolutely awful, slipping and sliding all the way down. We had to hold on to the brick wall all the way down. So anyway, we finally got down, and Tom thought we were all nuts to have done that. So that was one of the ridiculous things that we did. That was just absolutely awful.
So that is so funny. So you've mentioned your go-to spot would probably be either Italy or Greece in some way. And you did spend a tremendous amount of time there for sure. Let's talk about the other kind of travel though. Sometimes we wind up in places that maybe didn't leave us feeling as great as what we thought it would be. What is something or some place that you've gone where you're like, man, this was a letdown. This was just not as great as I thought it would be?
I just have to think that when we were on the cruise through the Med, which was a total circumnavigation of the Mediterranean Sea, and we went to Casablanca. And Casablanca was, with all the hype and everything else that's concerned with Casablanca, and the movie and the nonsense and everything, Casablanca is a huge metropolitan, pretty uncomfortable city in a traffic-laden mess. And the only thing that we got out of it was going to the giant mosque that was built by I don't even know, Sultan, whoever, over the water. And it was the most massive mosque that you can imagine that we were allowed into. And then after visiting that, we went to Rick's Cafe, and that was it. And between horrific traffic and horrific nonsense, we finally got back to our ship, and it was finally peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about our go-to spot. We've talked about our biggest letdown. What about adventurous travel? What's the most adventurous thing y'all?
There's
y'all
no
done?
doubt that it was the trip we took to Botswana and Zambia. Without, as far as adventure,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, there's no way that you could ever say that that isn't adventuresome. Everything that we did, every breath we took, every morning we woke up, every evening we went to sleep, it didn't matter what it was. There was something there that was different than what we would have ever known if we had never been there.
Okay.
And I tell you something, if you have never, ever gone to South, Mid, North Africa for a foray of some kind of a nature exposition, you're really missing out in life. It was extraordinary. And I was just, to this day, I was so grateful to have been able to have the gift of getting there.
Very cool. So we talked a little bit earlier about how you have almost 3 chapters of travel history, kind of what you did here in the States when you were younger and as a child, and then your time as a couple with Tom, which was so adventurous and so many things happened. And you just kind of alluded to the time that you've spent traveling after him passing, which was about 10 years ago, I would say now. And I really see that you have changed so much in your traveltude. You've really taken on some new ideas and new adventures. And I know traveling with Tom was kind of very predictable in a way. It was cruising and he liked things just so. You've always said that. Now that you started traveling without a significant other or your husband, you've really kind of embraced 2 new kinds of travel in your life. You've embraced solo travel and the girls trip, the idea of a girls trip. Probably your first travels after Tom passed was coming to visit me in Japan. How did Japan change your outlook on travel? What did you think of Japan and what did it give you as inspiration to continue being a traveler?
I have to tell you, the first thing was that I had enough miles on my Delta credit card to travel first class to Japan. That made all the difference on the planet. And so when I got on the airline and I was there in a pod and I was in first class luxury, it made a huge difference. That made a huge difference. And then, of course, getting to Japan and Alex waiting for me at the airport and on and on. Japan was mesmerizing. It's a spectacular place to visit and be. The Japanese are beyond kind and lovely and just whatever it takes to be accommodating. And I loved being there and I treasure my time there. It was awesome. And we were lucky enough, well, I was lucky enough to have my daughter Alex to be able to have placed us in all kinds of areas, whatever it took, whatever it was, whatever kind of temple, Buddha this and Buddha that, and and all kinds of everything that it took to have a memorable trip. And beautiful gardens and beautiful
people, beautiful food, by the way. I have to tell you.
Food's important.
Food was awesome. And so my time in Japan was a true treasure. I'm so fortunate to have been able to go there.
I think it's almost like a stepping off, like to be able to say you did that by yourself. You flew to Japan by yourself. You can do it.
I did. And it was my first time really adventuring out of my element, and without a husband and without anything but knowing I'm going to my daughter and
Right.
family. So that made all the difference in the world.
It was like a rebirth travel.
It was.
Yeah, but it's so funny because I remember as you were leaving, you spent 6 weeks with us, which was so great to have that much time to really kind of connect with an incredible country. I'm very biased to it. I really enjoyed my time there as well. But I remember I did not take you back to the airport when you left.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I took you on the train. And I put you on the airport train in the big Yokohama station. And I was kind of like, no, if she can do this, if this works out and is successful, nothing will stop her. Nothing will get in her way. And I do think that's true. I feel like you see a travel opportunity, and however it lays out for you, whether it's with someone, whether it's not with someone, however it works out for you, you're confident in no matter how you do it. And I know those little stepping stones were definitely helpful in creating that feeling.
Well, I have to tell you something. In doing that, and don't think it was not an issue, traveling with the suitcases and things like that on and off trains and into different things that I never knew of, and getting to the airport. But once I got there, with the blessed American Express Platinum card, I was able to get into the lounge, and it was amazing. It was, they had stuff that I never saw in my life in an American Express lounge. Never. They had vats of soup. They had sushi. They had drinks. They had everything that on this planet that you could ever imagine. And I was blown away. I have been to 100 different American Express lounges, and nothing was like this, like it was in Tokyo.
So
Nothing.
American Express will take our residuals as you see fit on that particular one. We're more
That
than happy
made-
to do that.
That made a difference I can't even tell you. And by the way, if you are a world traveler, get an American Express Platinum card, because it makes a difference in your life.
Okay, our mom just upgraded our status in your affiliate program.
It's true. It's true. It's worth it.
So what do you expect good travel to be now? When you travel, what is the thing that is like, okay, this is what makes me want to travel? What's the motivation?
Adventure, cleanliness, destination.
And someone to plan it for her.
Well, that's a thought. The planning is the biggest thing. I mean, my problem is packing and thinking about what I need, and I go sideways about that. And I want to take the least that I can and eventually pack the most that I can. So it really is a difficult thing.
So let's put on there, we need to get her an official packer.
But things are different. It depends on each trip. If you're on a cruise, it's different packing. If you're on a car thing, it's a different packing. If you're on a just an adventure, you're on a different packing. Everything has its own way about it. So you can't say, how do you do this and that and that? It doesn't. It applies only to what you need to do.
True. That's true.
So how do you enjoy travel with the girls now? What are some of the highlights of traveling with the girls? Because you become quite the girls trip aficionado.
The most important thing is destination, and the next thing is liquor, and the next thing is uh, fun and laughter and partying, and that's what girls do. And after that, I don't know what else I can say, because those are the.
Let's ask her this one. What about traveling with kids?
I don't.
You avoided it all?
I would not. I cannot. I just can't.
You're so on the right podcast.
No, not kid. I'm not there. I'm not with kids. I'm not with little ones. I mean, I can see a teenager or something like that in an interesting place. It's got to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
With some kind of a program involved, but not little kids. I was on a transoceanic cruise, and there was a couple with the grandparents, and they had two twins that were about 18 months old each, and then they had two slightly older children. And I can't imagine in my life going on a ocean cruise, which was what, 15 days? I don't even know what it was, with these toddlers, these little babies. And what do you do with them? How do you go to dinner? How do you, I mean, maybe they had a nanny or something, which I never knew.
Yeah.
But I would think twice about being around little children.
Now, for our listeners, we're not anti-kids.
We are not. We love children. We love
them,
our babies.
But there's a place for everybody.
And not on a vacation.
Not on our vacation.
Not on our vacation.
Yeah.
Nope, not ours. Nope, not going to happen.
So speaking of our vacation, what are some of your more recent travels that you've enjoyed?
Oh, my most recent, because of this infernal COVID, my last trip that I took was a cruise from Dubai to Barcelona. And that was 23 days. And it was, if I can say amazing, my breath will take away, because it was beyond anything that I could have imagined. I mean, going into Israel and Jordan and Oman and Egypt, the Valley of the Kings was beyond anything I ever knew. That how the devil did they do this stuff? I mean, these guys had to be, I can't even imagine how they did their things. And the not only the pyramids, but the columns and the things that are there. It's really something else to say. That was amazing. And then going through the Suez Canal. And of course, we had to go around the Horn of Africa, where the Somalis were acquiring ships and holding them for ransom. But that night I had dinner with the captain, and he leaned over and he said, they really don't want a ship with 750 old people and or elderly people and holding them hostage. They want an oil tanker with 6 guys on board.
So you felt safe.
And so we did, but they made us go through the whole thing with the shades pulled down, and we had to sit on the floor. It was a drill. It was hysterical. It was beyond.
It was the pirate drill.
It was ridiculous. It's what it was.
And you're here.
And
Pirates didn't take her.
No, they didn't want us. No, we were rejects. We were rejects.
Okay, so leading into, what are some movies that inspire you for travel?
Oh my goodness. There's so many, 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 many. Under the Tuscan Sun was one of my faves because I loved that thing, that whole business, and her gumption and her thing about getting that house together, and the Polish guys that were there that helped her do it. I love that.
Mom's 100%
I
Polish.
love them, and she got them. And of course, Eat, Pray, Love. How good is that? And oh my goodness, what else? There's so many.
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia is hysterical.
Talk about watching Mamma Mia with a Greek. No, not Mamma Mia. My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh my gosh. No, that's not a foreign film. It's not a foreign film. It is local, and it is my life. And I had a lot of cousins. Let's put it that way.
It was your lucky day to be
It
married
was my
in the
lucky
Greek
day to be
Orthodox
married
Church.
to be married to a Greek, and I did the whole thing. Trust me.
And we had lamb today.
We
did, and it was amazing. It was a cute movie, adorable.
Aww. Okay, so what is the best thing about travel? What is the one element of travel that just keeps you addicted?
Oh my goodness. What you have to do when you travel is you have to turn around every corner. No matter where you are, you've got to, when you're walking down the street, you've got to turn the corner and see what's down there. One time, Tom and I were in London, and we were just walking down. We walked forever. And it was one of those times we were walking down Fleet Street, I think it was, and we turned into an alley. They call them alleys in London. And we walked down the alley, and lo and behold, there was a church there. It was called St. Bridget's Church. And not only that, it was a prehistoric church where they had underground catacombs that we never even knew about. But at that time, there was a wedding going on there, and Tom and I joined the wedding. And we sat there in the, in the Episcopalian church. The pews can go this way instead of this way. I can't explain it.
They can go vertically with the nave and not just horizontally.
And so we joined, and Tom was singing the songs. I don't know how, he had no idea what they were singing, but he was there. And we went to this wedding in St. Bridget's Church in downtown by Fleet Street. And it's one of the famous churches by, who is a famous architect that did everything.
Wren.
Christopher Wren.
Yes.
This little church was a found. It was like, what? We're down an alley, and here we are in this place. We never knew anything like that existed. And there we were in this place. So what you always have to do is turn the corner.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's really good advice.
I do like that. Now, what's the worst thing about travel?
Packing. It is packing.
And missing your flight?
Oh, that's another story. But no, of course, missing your flight. But packing is, oh my goodness. But it depends on where you're going. And
it's still laborious.
And it depends on who you're going with.
True.
Now, when I was traveling with Tom, it was a huge effort. It was major stuff going on. Because if we were, there were times that we had tuxedos for the cruises, and we had tuxedos and crisp shirts and things like that. And then there were times that we went with the girls where nobody cared about anything. T-shirts and jeans.
Just throw your bathing suit in.
And that's it. So it just depends. But packing is a major thought. You've got to get through that.
What is on the books for you now? What's the next trip that you've got planned?
Well, the next trip is, as we speak, and prayerfully we will be able to do, is a Rhine cruise. If we fly from here to Amsterdam and spend a few days in Amsterdam and then take a Viking Rhine River cruise to Budapest. And after Budapest, we have plans to go to some local areas like Salzburg and Prague and a few other places. But our final destination will be 1 week in Krakow, in our most beloved place that we've stayed at, our Airbnb that I treasure. I love that place.
Yeah, it is pretty fabulous. It's
it's
got everything that you
so
want.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed that's where we're going.
Okay,
but what's your bucket list trip right now? What's the
where's
trip
next?
Yeah, where's the thing you're ready to go there next?
I would probably do, if I could, an Australian cruise around all of Australia. I've not been there, and I would like to see all of that. I've been to New Zealand, but we could stop here and there in New Zealand, but I would go to Australia and circumnavigate Australia.
Okay.
As I speak, and see what happens. I mean, I don't know.
I love that idea. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, Mom, this has been fabulous. Thank you for spending our special Mother's Day show with us. You've been such a great inspiration to so many people and all the travels that they will enjoy in the future.
Yes.
Well, there's so much more to go in life, and it never ends, and the world is our oyster, and all we need to do is open it and be there.
Well, I think that is exactly how we should wrap this up. Want an interview, Terri?
Oh, your mom is always a joy.
She is. But you know what? As we were doing some of those questions, it took everything we had to get answers out of her on certain things. And some questions she just couldn't or wouldn't answer. No matter how hard we tried to get her to tell a specific story or do a specific thing, she just wasn't giving in. It was pretty comical to us. And I think maybe more of our laughs were about that than anything else.
I completely agree, but I have a little surprise for you.
Pourquoi?
I talked to Mom, and I found out all the information that she did not share with us.
Oh my goodness.
But I'm not just going to hand it over to you. We're going to play a little game. We're going to play a little travel Jeopardy. I'm going to give you her answer, and you've got to give me the question.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try. Okay.
You tell me what Grandma Marianne would have said.
Okay. Wait. Oh. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, let me ask this question. Are you saying that I'm supposed to give you the question we wanted her to answer?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Go for it.
Okay. The answer is Poland.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, we tried to get her to answer this question so many times. The question is, what was the trip that made you feel most like home? My mom's 100% Polish, and she just would not
tell a story about going to Poland. She was so cute there. After a couple of days, she started kind of getting the language back in her mind. And she would say her prayers like the Hail Mary in the church in Polish. It was adorable.
Okay, you ready for number 2?
Okay.
The answer is Ireland.
What was the coldest trip she was ever on?
She said she froze.
She did. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to go and do something. I feel like it was the Carrick-a-Reed Bridge up really at the top of Ireland. And I think she's definitely afraid of heights to start with, but she would not go out on the bridge. She went inside the little tea house and had a cup of tea instead.
She wasn't going.
She wasn't doing it. She was
Nope.
cold.
Okay. My favorite. What the answer is Greece.
That's the answer to like 8 bajillion questions. But I do remember the question that we wanted her to answer and she just could never get to that particular trip. What was the most laid back trip we ever took? And it was island hopping on a catamaran around the Greek islands. We had a great time.
She loved it. She loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next answer was Botswana and Alaska.
Botswana and Alaska together.
Because they're so related.
They are. What relates them? Oh, okay. She went zip lining in Alaska and whitewater river rafting. And she did all kinds of crazy things in Botswana. So maybe what is the most adventurous trip she'd ever been on?
That would be it.
And she didn't
like the zip lining.
She didn't mind the zip lining. She did not like the rappelling down from the platform. It took us about 20 minutes to get her off because of her fear of heights. But I think the funnier story is crossing the Zambian Botswana border on a raft with an 18-wheeler and a bench. And I'm telling you, I was afraid we were going to go right over into the river and some hippo was going to eat us. For sure.
I wish you had a picture of that. Okay. You ready? The next answer is Normandy, France.
That's a tough one. I'm trying to think of what we wanted her to answer. Oh, you know what? Maybe what is the most nostalgic trip? Maybe nostalgia.
That was it. That was it.
Yeah, that was an interesting trip because we went and visited our great uncle's graves on the 100th anniversary of World War I. And they had died on the same day and they are buried in American cemeteries in France. So that was very nostalgic.
And weren't y'all there on July 4th?
We were, and that was unbelievably amazing. On top of it, the French Air Force kept coming over the cemetery at Normandy and doing a wingtip salute every hour on the hour. It was amazing. A really magical experience. Yeah.
Next answer.
Mm-hmm.
Dubai cruise.
Oh, I know exactly what that is. Biggest emergency ever on a trip. My mother would not go see a doctor because she twisted her foot and really hurt dancing with somebody on the entertainment staff. And we arranged for a doctor. We did everything. And there she was. And she refused to go see the doctor that I coordinated for her, everything. She was a big pain.
You know what she said? Al, I'm fine.
I'm fine. That's my mother.
The next one, I'm really kind of jealous about this, but I know why we weren't invited. The answer is Fiji.
Oh, she didn't talk about Fiji at all, and I thought she would. That's the most luxurious trip she's ever been on, I think. She stayed at an incredible resort because my niece worked on a private island in Fiji, and she went to Fiji and New Zealand. And that resort was just like an amazing experience for her. It was pretty cool.
The pictures were amazing
And P.S., she hurt her foot there too,
because she fell.
but she was fine.
I'm fine.
Fine.
Okay. London and Rome.
London and Rome are walking cities. Where have you done the most walking? London and Rome.
Mhm.
For sure. As a matter of fact, in Rome, we were there a week, and I want to say we clocked about 36 miles in 1 week walking the streets of Rome.
Mhm.
It was crazy. Yeah, we walked a lot there. And she mentioned that she walked a lot in London, but I remember Rome being a place where we just walked and walked and walked and walked. Yeah.
The answer is Norway.
Oh, this one's easy. Where to next? That's what
Yes.
we're planning. That's what we're planning right
Yes.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a toss-up now. I have to say I had a good conversation. It
Mhm.
was, a little after 5. So
Oh, cocktail hour.
yeah. So I have a couple double Jeopardy. I know you always just have one, but I got 2
Okay.
because these just fit your mom.
Got it.
The answer is iPhone.
What my mother cannot be without ever.
Like a teenager.
Like a teenager, she's worse than all the rest of us. She wants that free Wi-Fi and that iPhone now.
Mhm.
Everywhere we go.
And I think the last one probably is the best.
Okay.
The answer is free breakfast.
Oh my gosh. So, gather around, children. Let me tell you a story about what it was like a long, long time ago to book a hotel or inn in Europe. If you did not get breakfast with your room, it was a bad deal. Now, I have to tell you, that's not necessarily the case anymore. While there are many places that are still B&Bs in the traditional sense, my mother will not give up on the breakfast included with the room deal. And she drives me bananas every time I try to book a room. Does breakfast come with that, Al? Al, did you check? Do we get breakfast with that? And I'm thinking to myself, the last place that I want to eat breakfast is in this hotel when there's coffee and croissants right down the street.
Well, she just wants me to let you know when you're planning the Norway trip, please see if the places you get come with a free breakfast.
It does. It's a cruise.
Perfect. She'll be happy.
Yes. The travel industry has taken quite a blow from several global issues, including the war in Ukraine, the COVID-19 crisis, and inflation, that makes it hard for people to get out into the world like they want to. At this point, leading experts are predicting that it is going to take up to 3 years for the travel industry to bounce back to full force. One way that you can help is to like and subscribe to 10 microbloggers. Start with us. You can like and subscribe to our podcast and our website so that you can tell the travel industry that people are still interested in travel. So, Terri, how can listeners get a hold of us?
We'd like to hear from you. Contact us at babciaandyiayia@gmail.com with your questions, suggestions, favorite travel tips, products, and travel trends so that we can share your ideas in the future. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. Here you go, guys. Babcia and Yia. BABCIA and YIAYIA.
babciaandyiayia.com is the home base for everything that we love about travel, and it's where we store our show notes as well as many of the resources that we offer to our travel community, including travel literacy for the kiddos. We always have new posts about all the things we love and about all the travel we're up to, including today's topic, as well as features on destinations, travel lifestyle, and stories to make you smile.
Didn't get all that? Just check out our show notes for all of the ways to stay in touch and links to anything we chatted about in this episode. As always, thanks for joining us for our journey.